My name is Monica and I'm from geeksagogo.com and we're here today again with another one of my closest cosplay friends. The man that has so many titles. So many. But it's only very well known Papa Bear Cosplay or Papa Bear
Studios.
Studios. There
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go.
Thank you for inviting me here. I appreciate the invite. I appreciate talking to you as always. I'm excited to get into all the things.
So the reason why I invited Papa Bear today is because we want to talk about being a cosplay guest, and not just a cosplay guest, but being a person of color as a cosplay guest. So I know there have been a lot of questions. How how do we get booked? Like, why do we get booked, and why it's important to have and add that diversity being a POC host on panels, on conventions, and on a lot of different events. So Chris has had a lot of experience doing that. For a few years, you were doing a lot with Wizard World. He's done a lot of cosplay judging, especially in the Chicagoland area. We've worked side by side on that. He's done a lot of panels, so he's going to talk to us about his experiences and how he did it. All right, so let's go and get started with how did you get started with cosplay, Chris? Like, what made you like start cosplaying?
All right, so about 7 years ago now, a friend of mine said, "Hey, you should come to a convention." I was like, "Okay, that's." I knew not, didn't even know cosplay was a word, didn't know it was a thing. I knew people dressed up at cons. I just thought it was just dress up like anything else. So I get to the convention. Well, even before that, I was like, I ran to Party City. I got a straight out the bag costume, and I mean, you couldn't tell me nothing. I thought I was the coolest guy in the whole building. Okay, and didn't know a thing about cosplay whatsoever. But after I get there and I see like all the costumes and everybody was so cool, I was like, I want to do this like all the time. I want to take it as serious as I can take it. And that's what I did. Like the following year, I took the whole year to learn how to make things, to learn makeup, to learn all things cosplay that I could find out. And over the course of that year, I put together my Hellboy, and that costume kind of started me on my cosplay journey. And ever since, I've taken it. I wanted to take it serious and just see what I could make of it because I loved it so much, and I've been able to do that for years now. And that kind of runs into like all the titles that you talked about.
The
Talked about me
many,
having earlier. Yeah.
yeah,
So
he has probably as many, if not more, titles than Khaleesi. So I'm not even gonna get into that list, but I will make sure to link you all of his social media, like down below, so in the description. That way you can check out his website, check out his portfolio now, because he also does like photography and like photo manipulation. Is
yep.
that kind of like a correct term for it?
Yeah, yeah.
So he does a lot of that now, and it's just absolutely amazing how talented Chris is. And I'm not just saying that because he's my friend, okay?
Well,
It's just
I
he's just really
appreciate that.
multi-talented, okay? Your first cosplay was actually store-bought. Like mine was also store-bought and I wore
Hmm.
Chun-Li. So what was your first cosplay ever?
So my first cosplay ever was straight out of the plastic bag. It was Hellboy, like straight out of the plastic bag. And I chose that character because I knew I was going to Comic Con. I had to do something, and only had a couple days to figure it out. And I was like, well, I like the movie. I felt like me and the character had the same type of build. I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect. So went to Party City, got it straight out the bag. It was all wrinkled. The hair was like the wax plastic hair. It wasn't a real wig at all. The coat was plastic. The whole thing. We all know how these costumes look. Okay. Um, and it came with like a single tube of like grease red makeup, and I just took my fingers and I just smeared it all over my face just to kind of get the red on there. And I had facial hair. I didn't shave anything. I didn't have any horns for it. Um, and so the very first prop I made was the right-handed Doom, and I did this in a day. I took an old boxing glove and I took an empty paint can and I put the paint can on my forearm and I put the boxing glove on, and that was my right-handed Doom. That was Hellboy's right hand, and just spray painted it red and just went on about my day. And I thought it was just the coolest thing ever. And I actually have a picture of that costume.
I'm gonna put
Um,
it here.
yeah, and I got a picture of that, and just to see like where you start to where you end up is a pretty cool process. If you stick with it over the years, you just kind of see like this is where this is where it started, this is where I'm at now. And typically every year I'd add a little more something to that costume to what it is today. So added a real wig. I actually made real props, got made horns, made the gun, upgraded the coat. All these little things that make a costume what it is. And that's also why Hellboy is my favorite costume. Even though I've done a whole lot of things since then, Hellboy will always be my favorite one because it was a costume that got me introduced to cosplay, and it was the one where I learned how to do makeup. I learned how to make props. I learned so many things just trying to just make that costume as good as I could possibly make it. So that one will always have a special place for me. I love that Hellboy costume. It's also the one I've worn the most as well.
Yep. And let me just say, okay, so Chris has a habit of downplaying his stuff, okay? He is this nice guy. I will tell you guys, he is just this nice, like genuinely, very genuinely nice guy that you will meet at the convention. Like when the first time I met Chris, he is just so approachable, okay? That he's one of those people that's just so easy to talk to. Yeah, he's always very helpful as well. But like even for his first try at Hellboy, it was still good. Like I know he was like kind of like it wasn't that good. It's like, but you know what though, for a first time cosplay, it actually was not bad, and it was actually like the whole showcase on Hellboy who you were making. You were featured at IGN, right? They made a video of you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
there. I
Right.
was there for a little bit, but it was about Chris, and it was beautiful because he truly is an inspiration.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
so I wanted to ask you, so because Chris is who he is, he's super tall. Okay, first of all, he is super tall. You won't miss him, and he has his awesome cosplay every time he roams around the convention. And his genuineness, I feel, is the reason why a lot of people and companies want to work with Chris. So now we're gonna talk about Chris. How did you get started hosting and doing panels and just being booked to do events as a cosplayer?
Well, it started. I wanted to. Well, going way back from the beginning, I was doing contests and doing competitions and stuff like that. But I wanted to kind of expand and do a little more. So I was just trying to figure out how can I make the most out of cosplay without being completely self-serving and just doing competitions and stuff like that. And I saw an opportunity to judge a contest, and I give, it was at Anime Milwaukee, had to be like 2015, maybe 20, that long ago. But I give them a lot of credit because I volunteered to judge the contest, just because I wanted to get my foot in the door. And pro tip for people out there: don't be afraid to volunteer. Um, Now, of course, we're going to get into like getting paid and contracts and all those things. But, for me at that time, being an absolute just nobody, I was just trying to get some experience, just trying to figure out, where I wanted to go. So I volunteered my time to judge the masquerade at Anime Milwaukee years ago, and from there it just kind of built up from there because you meet behind the scenes folks, you meet other judges, they know people behind the scenes, people know people, and that's how you build up your reputation like from the grassroots and just kind of build it up that way. Now, with that said, don't volunteer everything,
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
but it's okay to give your time when you're trying to establish yourself, when you're trying to build a resume, build a portfolio, volunteer. And I did a lot of volunteering in the beginning because that's exactly what I was trying to do. It was a way for me to get behind the scenes, work at a con, see how it works, meet people, establish myself, and gain a good reputation. And then it comes to a point where people want you because you do good work,
Mhm.
and people recommend you because you do good work. And so that's how I got my start. It was just volunteering. Oh, you need somebody to do something? I can do it. You need
Yep.
somebody to be here? I can be there. Okay. Um, I don't want anything. I just want the opportunity.
Mhm.
So, and it's a lot of that, and also people always willing to pay it forward because sometimes the cons can't afford to give you nothing, and that's real sometimes. Not all the time, but it's
Yep.
real sometimes.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then you do a favor for them, they remember, and then it was like, okay, well, we can bring you back. Now we can pay you. Now we can get you some lunch. We can get you a room. We can do all these things. So um, that's how I got my start in the con scene, was volunteering and then kind of working my way from there. Now in the community itself, besides doing the conventions and things like that, which is a way to meet people, again, I wanted to expand. I wanted to kind of do more with my costume. So for me, I sought out like local cosplay groups, and that's specifically here in the Chicago area. Customers with a Cause is the big charity one. We Are Cosplay. That was the one that they do events and they do charity stuff as well. And and also Cost Awesome Studios, they do events and stuff as well. And volunteering with those cosplay groups, I was able to ingrain myself in the community and kind of learn um, the charity side of it, learn the event side of it outside of conventions and things like that. So you can't. There has to be a certain level of like go get it. You
Mhm.
gotta be willing to go get it, and there
Yep.
has to be and you have to kind of step out of your comfort zone if you're an introvert, because you got to
Yep.
be able to talk to people.
Yep.
So you have to have some of that too, where nobody's really looking to give you anything. You have to go and you have to make the decision that this is what I'm going to go do. And so, and it's a lot of time you got to put in. It's a lot of being in costume, and it's
Mhm.
exhausting, but that's what I did because I wanted to be in the community. I wanted to be a part of the scene at the con and within the community itself. And finding, no matter where you are, find your local groups, work with them because everybody's putting on events. Work with them, find your local cons, work with them, and and you just have to network because everybody knows somebody. The community is
Yep.
not very big,
Mhm.
so everybody knows someone. Everybody's looking to try to find someone that is a good worker at conventions, and we're going to talk about what that looks like as well.
Mhm.
So ingrain yourself in the community, volunteer in these spaces, and then before you know it, people will ask you to be involved in more and more things.
Yep. So let me ask you this. Do you think, because you're also an award winning cosplayer, do you think that gave you an advantage to get booked?
I think for judging contests, for sure, because if it's a well run contest, you want to have a seamstress or a tailor. You want to have a foam fabricator, foam smith. You want to have somebody that's good at prop making. You want to have somebody that's good at special effects, makeup, or prosthetics. You want to have an expertise in each field.
Yeah.
So, you know, being a foam person, foam smith like myself, I satisfy that expertise in that field. So when people are looking for judges, there's like, oh, well, what does Chris do? Well, he makes armor, he makes foam, he can fit in that spot. So, I fulfill that need. Now, if it's a competition where, everybody's, wearing a dress, I can't really help you with that because I'm just armor and foam and weaponry and stuff like that. So, but that's where the balance comes into play.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
If you have a contest where everybody's a seamstress, you're doing a disservice to the armor makers. And if you have a contest where everybody makes armor, you're doing a disservice to the people who sew.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it helps when you have an expertise because then you can sell that. You be like, well, hey, listen, I these are my costumes. I make all armor or I make all swords or guns, and I can fulfill this obligation to armor in your contest. This is why you should put me as a judge in your contest. And that's something that you can, that's quantifiable and that you can prove. You be like, hey, I made this. I won an award for this. Look at the things that I'm making. You see this. This is award-winning stuff. I know how to, I can do this. Those are things that you can sell to a convention to put you in a contest. So it does help. And even if you haven't won any awards, let's say you're a heavy participant in contest, you can also sell that. I've been in this contest. I've been here. I've been there. I didn't place, but I've got the costumes. I know how this works. Give me a chance. And that's something that you can do.
Like, what are the top things that people need to remember when they are like a guest at an event?
So you have to, when you're a guest, you have to realize, like, yes, it's cool. You get some notoriety. You get on the website. You might be in the program, but as a guest, it's a job. Like, this is your job now. For that Friday through Sunday, or however long they got you, like, you're representing your brand, but you're also representing the convention. So people have to have that mindset, like this, yeah, it's fun and we do cool stuff, but you're at work essentially. From the time that place opens till that last minute it closes, you're at work. So you have to treat it as such. You got to be there, you got to be on time, you have to be very personable, okay? And then you have to fulfill your obligations, in your contract, which we'll discuss here in a minute. But and it's exhausting as well. Now we all run around in costume and things like that, but that's at our own leisure. We can always go back to the room if we're tired. We can take off our shoes if we're tired. But when you're a guest, you're at that table and you're also running around doing whatever programming you need. And all day you got to put on this smile and you got to shake hands and kiss babies and do all the things that that we have to do as guests. So and also, like, as a regular con goer, you might be on the floor 6 hours, you're done. But as a guest, you're there for the whole 8, 10, 12 hours. If you're judging a contest, you might have a 12-hour day. Okay. So you got to be prepared for that, because all day you got to be like, for 10 hours, just putting on that smile and, and all these things. And,
yeah, you gotta, and it's not hours. It's not even being not genuine that you're smiling, but you kind of like have to be like imagine it this way, guys. So it's like if you go to Disneyland, right? Our job as cosplay guests is almost similar to the cast members at Disneyland. If they see the cast members like moping around, like you see like Cinderella moping around, that takes away from the experience
Right,
that is expected of you when you're at work.
right.
So I had that my god, you're telling me about the whole 12-hour experience. My first full on like experience at PAX Unplugged, that was the most intense. um it was 12 hours or more because we had to be in the booth and I had to be in cosplay the whole time, but it had to have a lot of guest interactions. And you could be tired, hungry, like sometimes you won't have breaks because you're just engaging with folks while
Yeah.
you're at your station, you know. uh, what helps you, I guess, get motivated to like keep going, especially when it's like a 4-day convention? Like what keeps you going and what motivates you to have that smile on your face the whole time?
Well, it's it's the interaction. It's the people you meet that keep me going. Now, with that said, like everybody's not built to do this.
Yep.
People ask me all the time, like, how do I be a cosplay guest and how do I do this? And it's like, is that something you really want to do? Because it's work.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
people see like you're on the website, and you're on the program and all of this, but like it's work. But for me, it's always the people that come up and they want to interact with you and they're asking you questions about what you do and you're asking them questions about what they make and what they do. And it's always refreshing to see. And there's always a unique experience no matter where you go.
Mhm.
There's always a costume that you haven't seen, or somebody's done a technique you haven't used before, haven't seen. And you always get these unique experiences when you go to conventions. No matter what convention you're at, you're gonna have a different experience at each one. And it's the interactions that keep it fresh and keep it lively. When I'm tired and things like that.
Yep.
Um, it's always the people that make it worth it every time. And even being a part of contest where like somebody's won for the first time, and I've been in contests where a person's won and they felt like you know how could I win? They just break down crying because they won. And it's always cool to see because I remember being that guy who was like, oh my god, I won. Why, I remember that experience. So, to see other people go through that for the first time, these first time cosplayers, and they have that experience, it always brings me back to my first time, and it also makes it worth it to go through that. And that's the unique part about contests and things like that. But at my table, it's always fun to interact with folks who are just happy to be in cosplay. They're happy to see you, and you're happy to see them because we're all sharing this experience of the convention. And conventions have energy, and
Mhm.
you can feed off that energy as well. Now it's exhausting, but it's also very fun to keep it going. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're all tired by the third or fourth day at the end of it. But you always go back and think like, you know what, that was a great weekend.
And been in events and guesting. Is there a particular one or like a particular experience that you've had that's just so memorable? Like it's been your favorite memory about being a host or being a cosplay judge?
There is a lot. It's a lot of times it's the unexpected things. Um, it could be as little as I remember at I was at a convention and like they needed a host for the kids cosplay contest, and he was like, hey, kid, host backed out or whatever the circumstance was, and I got the host the kids contest, And it was on a little stage, and I got to dance with the kids and kind of have fun with them because, like, no, it's the kids' contest. No one's taking it, too seriously. Everybody's being lighthearted about it. And I got to dance around with the kids for like a half hour. And it could be like little unexpected moments like that to moments where I've had like random celebrity interactions. And you were part of this when we did the ABC News segment, and we did that, and so little things like that kind of make for very unique, unexpected experiences where you're at a convention and sometimes you're just minding your own business, and then somebody just pulls you to the side like, "Hey, you want to be on TV?" It's like, "Yes, I do. Yeah, yes, let's go
Let's
do
do
that." Or
it.
yeah, it's like, "Hey, you want to be on a podcast?" Well, yes, I do. Let's go do that. So, and I've been lucky enough to have those experiences like that.
Yep. I'm not tearing up. I have allergies, you guys. I'm like, oh, memories. Because we didn't have conventions last year. I'm like, oh. I just wanted to tell you guys I'm tearing up because, like, I'm so touched. Thank you for
Right.
being my friend. Oh my god. Yeah, it's my allergies. I don't know what it is, but it gets too
Sure.
cold. Like it's like, yeah, no.
Sure, the allergies, sure.
Okay. With all of the guestings that you've experienced through the years, there's also it's a give and take relationship with the convention or the event, right?
Yeah.
What does that entail for you? Like, what would you expect back from the convention if they hired you as a host or to do whatever for their event?
So, for me, and this could vary, from individual to individual. You have to feel like, as a cosplayer, you have to feel like you're getting what is fair,
Mhm.
for your time, for your experience, for your expertise, and what they're asking you to do. Because every con doesn't want everything from you.
Yep.
So you have to make sure that, whatever the terms are you agree with, that it's terms that you can live with. It's things that, well, if I go here, I'm not wasting my time or my money or, what have you. You have to get back what you feel like is fair. And so don't be afraid to negotiate, and don't be afraid to walk away
Yep.
too. That's a big one. Don't just, and I get it. Temptation is there. Everybody wants to be part of that club. Everybody wants the notoriety and things that come along with being at conventions. But you also have to fight for your worth. You have to
Yep.
fight for your fair value. And don't feel like you have to just do everything for nothing just because it's a big con and they'll pay you in exposure dollars. Okay? Don't fall into that trap. Okay? Don't take exposure dollars. Don't do that.
Yep.
Okay? Especially from these mega cons that can actually afford to give you something.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
Now, a
Yep.
lot of times, at the local level, you have like a 1 day con, and it's a mom and pop, and they're trying. Okay, I get it. You volunteer, and even then, some of them will at least feed you. But
Yeah. Mhm.
these mega cons that have like 50,000 people in them, and they just want you to come in and do all this work for free because they're mega. It's like, no, 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 no.
Mhm.
Get your worth, get your fair value, and don't be afraid to say no. Um, and ask for whatever you feel like is fair. Now, let's say the con, they don't have a lot of money or they don't want to pay you a lot of money. Okay, all right, fine. Can you give me travel? Can you give me some lunch vouchers? Um, can you give me some celebrity meet and greets? Something that doesn't cost the convention money, but something they can give. I've been in situations where um, I've taken less money, but I got to meet the celebrity I wanted to meet. I got to
That's a
meet,
good
you
that's a
know,
good
I got
point.
to meet this person I wanted to meet. I got to make decisions on the show, or I took, I took a little less so I can bring someone else on who I felt like this would be a good opportunity for them. Negotiate, and don't be afraid to negotiate. It's okay, but get something for working 8 to 12 hours a day for 3 straight days.
Hmm.
Get something for it,
Yep.
please.
And Chris is not just talking about convention passes. Because I feel like a lot of people mix up convention passes as payment for
Right,
being at an event when you're invited. Look, like convention passes, I mean, they can just let you in. That's all it is.
right,
You're
right,
paying for security. This costs nothing for them. Like passes cost absolutely nothing for events or conventions, like especially the big ones that Chris was talking about. And I'm kind of glad that he gave the rundown of, okay, you can't pay me X amount of dollars, like have something of value to you
right, right.
that you can actually either use or something. Um, yeah, the negotiating part is really important with that. Um, so let's dive into kind of like the diversity aspect of being a guest. Right now, like a lot of companies, they try to diverse, not just their kind of like lineup for their events, but they're also diversifying on, like programming. Like panels have become a lot more diverse. It's discussing more topics about diversity. And by diversity, I keep saying it's like people of color, or like discussing issues or stuff like that that could kind of like help our community be more welcoming and coming together. What do you think is a successful way for a company to do that? Because unfortunately, there are times when um, we get invited and then we we're not really used to our full potential, I guess, is what I'm getting at. So how do you go about like telling the company that this is the way how to do it?
For me, it's about advocacy. You have to advocate. You really do. A lot of places they want to bring you in so they can feel good. Like, see, look, we've got we've got the one guy here that fills the diverse quota. See, all right, we're good now, right? No, okay,
No.
we're still not good. Like, see, we got a plus size person over here. We got one. We're okay. No, that you have to advocate. Okay, when they bring you in, you bring more with you. You bring them in. Like, hey, all right, you're bringing me in. I want to do this panel. It's gonna be a diversity panel. It's gonna have LGBTQ. It's gonna have plus size. It's gonna have Hispanic. It's gonna be all of it. Bring them too. Okay, advocate. Have to advocate. Okay, if
Mhm.
if you're not gonna fight for the representation that you want to see, who's going to do that? Okay, no one's gonna do that. You have to do that. You have to do it for yourself. You have to do it for your community, and that's one of my biggest frustrations. A lot of people just kind of talk about representation. You have to actually advocate for it and bring people in and do the work to penetrate these spaces.
Mhm.
And that's a part that people are missing. It's so easy to get on the internet and just complain about how the cosplay section of the con has nothing but one type of person. Okay,
Mhm.
instead of trying to then be that representation that you want to see different. advocacy is important. Every con I go to, I put on a diversity panel. That's not by accident. That's because I want to bring more representation to wherever I go.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the advocacy part of getting in these spaces. Now, of course, everybody can't, come in and be like, "This is what I'm doing," and I get all that, okay. But um, you can always email the con. This is what I want to see. Apply for panels.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, even if you're not a great speaker, because everybody can't do the panel thing, find someone who is maybe. See, hey, would you want to go on this panel with me? I think it'd be a good topic. Let's talk about plus size cosplayers. Let's talk about LGBTQ cosplayers. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about our experiences as Hispanic cosplayers. Let's talk about being Black cosplayers. Get with people and create the representation that you want to see. That's the only way
Mm-hmm.
it's really gonna happen. And so for me, because I get to be a guest, I can then bring people in and create panels and things like that on behind the scenes. But as a con goer, you can always just put in for panels, find out who's doing what, get together, and create that representation. And it does work.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it work, and as long as you keep advocating for that, eventually it's gonna get through, and it's gonna be a part of regular programming that these conventions have that they have every year. I've done the diversity panel with C2 for years now, for
Yep.
years straight.
Every year. Yeah.
Yeah, every year, and it's just become a regular part of the C2 E2 programming, and they didn't have it before. So, but now it's there, and now with C2 they have a plus size panel now. They got an LGBTQ panel now. So you have to if you feel like you're not being represented in these spaces, you have to create it. No one else is going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, and I get it's hard. It's a lot. Okay,
And
it
it's scary for
it
some
is.
people
It
because they
is.
don't want to be like, you know what, like I'm kind of afraid to ask, or I'm kind of afraid to do that. Like, would people really watch this? You'd be surprised how many people identify with
Right.
what you're representing, because that's part of the reason why I love the community, because you have all different types of personalities and all different types of like things that you identify with each one, but you will always find someone that has similar interests with you or similar issues, like like as a cosplayer who's really short and is really curvy, like I find similar people who have kind of like the challenges that I have, or like just being a person of color, because that all in itself, um I mean, I hate to admit this, but sometimes when we cosplay, we do encounter some unsavory like things during the conventions, and panels like what Chris is doing for diversity. It's not just to kind of it's not there to banter, or for us to complain about like, oh, this is what's happening. It's for people to help people really be more informed and be more accepted in the community. That's all this is for. So it there's a term called tokenism, where you make something, you make your company or your group or your event diverse, but at the same time you're um not really putting that diversity into your programming. Just having a diverse guest list or group in your event isn't enough. You really have to like see, okay, like maybe this is more than just having diverse people there. because a lot of the times, a lot of the diversity that you do have on your guest list, they have more to offer than just sit there or like be part of your guest list. They have talents that they can offer the convention. And a lot of the times, like people like Chris become really good consultants for companies. So something as it might not resonate for a lot of people that it's that important, but it's actually really important because people like Chris and people like pros and cons cosplay, like we always like try to get them involved because it's having that voice that we don't get to see often or we don't get to hear often, like really does matter.
Right. And really to further that, um, to piggyback off what you're saying, like true diversity for a convention is not just inviting someone like me to a con or someone like Monica to a con and being like, okay, you're here, so do your diversity panel, and that'd be great. True diversity is inviting people like me, Monica, and be like, okay, you're here, so I want you to talk about armor making for this panel. I want you to be on the main stage and do makeup on an audience member for a half hour. I want you to host a contest for a half hour. I want you to talk about how you got started in cosplay, do cosplay safety, cosplay 101. Have these people in these spaces and just give their experiences across the board. If you're just going to have a person of color at a con just to talk about being a person of color, you're not doing anything.
Yep.
You're not creating diversity. They're there because of a specific thing. They fulfill that thing, and then that's it. You're going to have a cosplayer there. They can offer everything any other cosplayer can offer. Okay. On top of the talking points of having the unique experience of being a person of color, they can talk about how to make a costume because they've done it. They can talk
Yep.
about charity events because we've done it. We can talk about so every we're it's not it's not like a sideshow. We
Yep.
do everything.
Mhm.
Okay. We do everything. So if you're about creating real inclusion, like real inclusion, then your cosplayer should talk about everything else everyone else is talking about because we all have that experience in making costumes. If we're being real about inclusivity, then you can have your black cosplayer talk about cosplay 101 as well as talk about being diverse and encompass all of it. And it doesn't, don't invite the plus size player here because you want a plus size panel. They're there to be a cosplayer and they can do everything else as well.
Okay, so Chris, like now let's talk a little bit about contracts. So, of course, with any type of work, it's more than just accepting a contract. Like, what are the things that you're looking for that you negotiate? Like, tell us about how you go about being a contracted to work as a cosplayer at an event.
So what's important when you are looking to be a guest or a host at a convention, you have to get that written down on paper. You have to because it's really about accountability. You want the con to be accountable to you, and they want to, them to be, reciprocate accountability. You want to be accountable to each other.
Mhm.
And also because initially you'll have a discussion and you'll talk about, okay, well, if you want me to come here, this is what I need. And I'm like, well, we want you to come here, this is what we need. And you want to make sure that language is in the contract.
Mhm.
Okay. You don't want to get there and then your experience is completely different than what was actually discussed. So you want to make sure that if they said they were going to pay you X amount of dollars, that dollar amount is on paper.
Mhm.
Okay. Because they won't
And
pay you.
yeah, and I'm gonna just interject. Like, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
What Chris is saying when he says contract, is not a Facebook DM or an Instagram DM. It is an actual contract, not an email. Those are all your initial
Yep.
interactions with this event or person who's trying to hire you. You need to have an actual document that would show all of this stuff. That's what he means by contract. So if somebody reaches out to you and only sends you an email, no, have it in writing, have them sign it.
Yeah.
So go on ahead. I know you have a lot more to
Yeah,
to.
well, it's important because and I'll share this, I'll share the story. So this is why contracts is important, people. Please remember this. Now, this didn't happen to me, but I know who this happened to, and I'm not going to name names, but I'm going to give you this story. They were in contact with a convention to be a guest. It was all just DMs, okay? Like Monica was saying, nothing was official. There was no documentation. It was like a handshake deal,
Mm,
essentially, all DMs. They were promised rooms, booth space, all the things that they need to get there. So they get there, and there's no hotel. There's
ooh.
there's no guest spot. There's no table at the con. There's no money. There's nothing. And this person is coming to this convention, and essentially they've got no place to stay. They've got all their equipment to set up in a booth with no booth to be at. And because there's no contract, there's no recourse
Mm-hmm.
for the convention. Okay. That's the important piece here. If there was a contract, then that con would be ironclad stuck to having some repercussions.
Yep.
But it was all just handshake deal in the DMs, and this person they were devastated, and rightfully so, because your whole weekend is blown. You've already spent money to get there.
Yeah.
Now you've got no place to stay, and the person you were talking to just kind of is like, well, blows you off
Oh,
because
yeah.
there's no contract. So you have to make sure that you get a contract to be at a convention so the accountability flows both ways. Okay. Don't just don't just leave it up to chance. Put it
Mm-hmm.
on paper. And also too, you can tell right away if somebody is actually serious about bringing you somewhere. It's like, okay, we talk. Hey, I want you to come to my con. Yeah, okay, great. Send me the contract. I'll go over it. I'll get it back to you. They never send you a contract. You just saved yourself a lot of worry because they weren't serious.
Yep.
Or you were going to get there and they weren't going to give you what they said they were going to give you. So always be wary. You talk like, okay, sounds good. Send me the contract. Here's my email. If you don't get one, then you didn't miss anything.
Yep.
Because if that person was going to do what they said, they'd have no problem putting it on paper and sending you that documentation so everything can be legit. And legit businesses want to keep everything legit. And if somebody's giving you a hard time about getting it on contract, then
That's a
you,
red flag.
it is. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need it. You don't need it. Now that's again, a lot of that too is if you're traveling out of state, if you're traveling pretty far, if it's a pretty large convention, you definitely want to get that contract. Now, locally at the mom and pops, you got some wiggle room there because if a half hour away from you, you know the guy, you know the girl, a lot of that is fine. But if you're going out of state, you got to hop on a plane. You got to take a 6-7 hour drive to go
Yeah.
somewhere. You need that on paper
Mhm.
because you got to take off work. You got to do all these things. Put it on paper. Don't make these cons accountable, okay, to you, and don't get screwed over. Because, like I said, I've seen it where somebody is looking for all these things, and because none of it was on contract, they didn't get anything.
Yeah.
So, um, always be mindful of contracts. If somebody's not willing to give you one, then it is a red flag for sure.
Well, what I normally do when I do my bookings, and I was telling Chris about this, because we pretty much like have like a lot of conventions like kind of like invite us to their events and whatnot. What I normally do, let's say you're a month out before the convention's about to start and you still haven't heard from the convention, right? Or your contact. If they haven't given me a contract a month prior to the event, I will email them a contract that I made myself. And most of the time, I actually just make my own contract and I make sure that there's a booking fee. Because part of the reason why I do that, let's say the event got canceled or last minute changes happened. Uh, they need to pay you for your time because you have cleared out your schedule for that weekend, for that convention, to not work because you can be working on cosplay, commissions, booking yourself another event where you're actually going to get paid. Like all these like little
Yep.
things, like your time is money. So send them your own contract with the stipulations that you spoke with that person because you can always revise the contract later. But
Right.
the important part is you need to have that initial payment, whether it's half of what they promised to pay you or a portion, at least a portion of your travel needs to be covered because like Chris and I, we travel anywhere. Like
Yeah,
we
that's true.
fly, we drive,
That's true.
we
Yeah.
we will
Yeah.
go anywhere. If they're like, hey, you want to be a guest in
Yep.
New York? Heck yes, I want to be a guest in New York. I want to fly out there. That costs money. That costs hotel,
Mhm.
or whatever. So just having that minimum payment to save you the hassle of like what happened to Chris's friend. Uh, you travel, you make your way and like travel to where that convention is. At least if it's in writing, hey, at least you're covered for travel and you're covered for your hotel.
Yep.
And I mean, quite honestly, like I even put like, oh, can you cover per diem? Like, cause you need to eat. I mean,
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
if they're not gonna pay you beyond travel, they at least could stipend you some money to give you some money to buy your food while you're at the
Yeah.
convention, because that's also a big part. So yeah, like
Get
don't be
something.
afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't be afraid to make your contract. Write all the terms that you spoke about with their representative and just like, here, I'm going to make the first step. This is what we talked about, but I also need this down payment. And you both sign it, go to DocuSign, both parties sign it, they'll get a notification on their email, and you're done. It's either that or I actually have done this on prior years. I send them an invoice, and it will be an invoice for a booking fee. So all that stuff you can easily do. If they're not sticking to their word and it's really close to the convention, you gotta make that step forward. Because a lot of the times it's just that they're busy. Because conventions are no joke to run too. So
Right. Right.
they might just been like, oh, like I'm the, they're the person in charge of talent for that convention. They're probably just scrambling, trying to get all their ducks lined up in a row. Make that initial step. Don't be afraid to do it. And then, you save yourself the hassle. You don't hear from them like a week after you sent that contract, revise, like whether or not they want to revise anything, then just
Right.
go ahead and change your plans because, yeah, if they're not serious, they're not going to sign it. Okay, so like Chris and I earlier, just now, we were highlighting about contracts and getting paid. Like, of course, like what Chris said with charities, it's not always about getting paid. But what is the real reason why we need to get paid when cosplayers get booked for an event?
So basically, we don't want to, as cosplayers, we don't want to, get into the habit of, cons just expecting to not compensate us in some way. We don't want to set a precedent where you can just bring cosplayers in. They'll run hours of programming. They'll do your contest, and all you have to do is nothing for them. We don't want to do that. We want to set the precedent that we are valuable to a convention. That cosplay corner, all the cosplayers go there. A lot of people cosplay, and we bring value to these places. So we need to be compensated for such things. We do programming. We run contests. We host things. We fill up the space. We help create the energy in the con, and that is valuable, and that deserves to be compensated. So, and we don't want to just be paid in exposure bucks. Okay. And that is an artist thing in general. Like, people don't value artists. Cosplayers are artists.
Yep.
Okay. And people don't value artists. And, just because you're a large con doesn't mean I can eat because I was at your convention. That I can't eat from my exposure dollars. I can't go to McDonald's and get my Big Mac with $5 in exposure. Get some compensation. Okay, we don't just want to create the habit of cosplayers. You bring them in, they do all this stuff, and you don't have to give them anything, and they go home and it's great. It's like, no, we have value, and it's important if you're gonna get into the guesting game that you value your time and your worth, and you fight for some form of compensation, whether it's an appearance fee per day, whether you get that travel covered, you get the hotel covered, get some compensation, okay? Because nobody's gonna turn down free work.
Yeah.
So don't let them get away with that. If you're just gonna come in and just not and just do everything free, nobody's gonna be like, no, wait. I want to pay you a lot. Stop working for free. Don't do that. Get compensation. Okay. Keep the standard that cosplayers are valuable, and we bring a lot to the table, and we do a lot of things that help the convention just have an energy and flow, and keep that worth high. Keep it high. Don't undersell yourself. Okay. If you feel like whatever they're talking about giving you isn't fair, you don't have to take it.
Yep. And just like, to add up to that, it's like, think about the time and the money that you've spent just making whatever cosplay you're going to be wearing for that convention. That's a lot of money and a lot of time. Like, I don't know, like what does an average cosplay cost for you?
I mean, typically at minimum, it's like 100.
Yeah.
At just in materials, and that's not even like in time.
Yep.
So, especially like as a larger person, I need way more things.
Yeah, there's more material. I know what you mean, because like my belly. I had to cover my pudgy belly, my Winnie the Pooh belly. I need to cover that stuff up. But yeah, like that costs money. Like like sewing projects. Easily a simple build would be around $200 to $300 because yeah, it's just like, especially now during COVID, it's like it's so hard to get materials, and despite stuff going on sale and whatnot, like it's really expensive. Shipping is really expensive, and plus like that, getting compensated too sets you apart from everyone else, because that means you're a professional. Like when you're getting paid, you are a professional on that field. That's what sets you apart. That's kind of like the bottom line. Like, don't, if you're willing to do stuff for free, like gauge where and who you're doing stuff for free. Like, like what Chris said earlier, the small conventions, because they're like small mom and pop conventions, But even then, like me and him, when we do stuff out here in Chicago, even the mom and pop places, they take care of us. They gave us food. Like man, this is awesome.
They do, yeah. They
Breakfast, lunch, and like man, it's good. But yeah, like you have to like really like keep in mind also that people like Chris and myself, like if you keep asking for stuff for free, you're kind of like hurting the professionals that do it as well. That's another
Right.
side of it. Um, then in the long run, nobody would really get paid because they're like, oh well, so and so did it for free for all this work.
Exactly. I mean, you think of it like this. Think that you would, whatever job you work, you would go to your job, work it, and at the end of the day, you pay them for working at the job. So
Like
no one's doing that.
yeah.
Um, you're not going to get up, go to work, and then pay them just so you can be at your job that you're working. So, just think of it that way. You're working. So get something for that work. Okay. Don't pay your job for the right to be there. Don't do that. And I think if people kind of approached it that way, that would kind of help see how silly it is sometimes to just not ask for anything.
Mhm.
So now it is exciting. It's cool. It's a cool experience, but you are working, and they're gonna because that convention is gonna expect you to be at all your panels. They're gonna expect you to be on time. They're gonna expect you to be the first one there and the last one to leave. And
Mhm.
those expectations for them are high. So get something for meeting and exceeding their expectations.
Yep.
Don't
And
pay
be
them to work.
mhm. And like your conduct too, you gotta watch out how you act around the patrons or how you are. Like even if you're in your booth, you also still need to keep in mind, hey, I'm still at work. You
Yeah.
know, you don't have to be serious all the time and joke around, but just be mindful about what you do. Like still treat it as a job. Like be professional, be approachable.
Yep.
You know, um, meet and exceed their expectations because chances are they like what they see. They're not just going to book you back on their next convention the following year. They're going to recommend you to everyone they know.
And that's actually I'm glad you brought that up because that's another part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what people don't know is every convention is copying off each other. Every
Yeah.
convention head is at the next biggest convention to take their ideas and bring it to their convention. And so many department heads and con runners and showrunners, they all come to the cons and they look who the guests are, they look who the cosplayers are, and sometimes you talk to them, you have no idea who they are. You have no idea who they are, but they run a convention, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't know that. And then they talk to you, and then they see who's around, and then they look to take guests at the convention they were at to bring to their show. Okay. And that's another big part of this. That's why it's important that every interaction you have with someone be a positive one. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why, for your brand, you have to stay on point because you're on stage the whole time. You never know who is watching you. I have had I have had book shows from department heads that I didn't even know were heads of anything until way later when they were like, "Oh yeah, I spoke to you at this con." I'm like, "You did?" I had no idea
Yep.
because they all go to the same conventions looking to steal ideas from each other to make their shows great, and it's just a cycle. So that's another thing to remember. Um, Keep your experiences positive. And I mean, I get it. Sometimes you're tired, you're hungry, you want to eat. I get it. But try to keep it positive. You never know who you're going to talk to. You never know who you're going to run into. And all these people are looking for the next cosplayer to bring to their show, and that could be you. So always keep that in mind.
So, yeah, Chris, thank you for talking to us about, being a professional cosplayer, things we need to look out for. Yep. Is there anything else you would like to add to everyone for everyone who's watching?
I would just say anyone who's looking to be a professional cosplayer and kind of looking to kind of get your feet wet and things like that, always remember um, you always have to keep creating, keep that content coming. That's a big part of it. Don't be afraid to volunteer your time, especially at contests and conventions. Volunteer, get your foot in the door in that contest. That's how you meet people, and you never know who you'll be sitting next to that could help you get the next spot. So don't be afraid to volunteer. Volunteer in your community. Get your name out there. Build your reputation. So get your hands dirty with the local cosplay community and volunteer that way. Because again, you never know who's going to be there to help you get your next spot. Once you do get your spot, be on time. Be on time at the con, be on time for your panel. Uh, Make sure you're there all the days you said you're going to be there. Get that contract. Make sure you got everything in it that you asked for. Okay. Make the cons accountable. And in turn, you be accountable to them, they be accountable to you. And stay away from the drama. Just you don't need it. Stay
Yeah,
away
you don't
from the
need it.
drama.
You don't need it. Just
It's
be,
just
yeah.
you know if somebody's always got drama attached to them, you don't want to get sucked in with that. Stay drama free.
Mhm.
A good way to stay drama free is to just be a decent person. Okay, let's start there. um, be a decent person, be somebody people want to work with, and you'll find yourself at shows all over the country. It's important to be personable, to be nice, be someone that people actually want to be around, and be a professional. And by that, I mean on time. You're always on stage. You got to put on that pretty face. You got to put on that nice smile, and help the con wherever you can, because they're gonna ask you to do some things that maybe wasn't in the contract. It's okay to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna help you guys out. They appreciate that, and you'll
Mhm.
get that a lot in conventions because conventions can be
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
Um, so, so yeah, and also too, reach out to other cosplayers. If someone's at a lot of guest spots and that's what you want to do, talk to them. Get that personal connection, get that personal interaction. Cosplayers are usually very approachable with everything. So
Mhm.
don't be afraid to not know someone and just reach out and be like, hey, how do you get started doing this? And see if you can get that mentorship.
Do you have any projects that are going to be coming up within this year or in the future?
I've got, well, a lot of the conventions that I do have planned is contingent on
Yep.
the whole COVID situation. So I don't know. I've had everything like the first half of this year for me has already been canceled. Well, no surprise.
Yep.
So we'll see. Here's hoping the last quarter of the year there'll be something happening.
Yeah, and it's gonna
Uh,
be better for all of
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Yep.
So here's hoping. And with that, if you throw Papa Bear Cosplay in the Google machine, you can find me. You can also go to papabearstudios.com. You can find me there too. And if you need any, special effects in your pictures, any Photoshop work, I also do that too. And you can find me there at my website or Papa Bear Cosplay in the Google as well.
So yeah, Chris, thank you so much. As always, you it's always been a pleasure talking to you. Like I talk to you almost every day, but it's so nice like talking shop with you as always. So thank you very much, and
I
we look
appreciate it.
forward to what you got going on in the future. You just keep getting brighter and brighter.
I appreciate being here. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Bye.